Welcome to the first edition of the Oracle Sports Desk. I'm Tyler Payne, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about all the college football matchups of the weekend. I want to start off in the SEC because that's where the best football is played. I'm going to start with Florida. They took on Samford this weekend. They bounced back for sure from the game against Miami in week 1. They looked pretty crisp. The quarterback, DJ Lagway, true freshman, played an outstanding game. He had over 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. He looked really good. That's pretty scary for other opponents in the future because it looks like he might be their guy. Moving on into Alabama, I want to talk about them very quickly. They played USF and they struggled again. They struggled last year at USF and they struggled again in Bryant-Denny Stadium this year. They wound up scoring 28 in the fourth quarter to make the score look worse than it was, but in reality, that game was a lot tighter than the score indicated. I want to move on into Tennessee now. They dominated NC State. 51-10 was the final score. They looked really good. Tennessee's defensive line was very impressive to me. They stood out, as well as their tight ends. I liked the way they used all 3 of their tight ends. Holden Stays, Miles Kitselman, and Ethan Davis, all 3. They looked very crisp on offense. Nico did throw 2 picks. One of those was on the offensive line. One of those was on him. I look to see Tennessee bounce back against Kent State at home. That'll be an easy win for them next week. Moving on into the Big 12, Nebraska beat Colorado 28-10. That game started out 28-0. Quarterback, true freshman quarterback, I might add, Dylan Raiola looked really good again. He might be a problem for the Big 12 this year in that conference. Colorado, however, did not look as crisp. They offensively looked good with Shadur Sanders. However, the offensive line and the line of scrimmage in general is still a problem that needs to be fixed. Looking at Oregon and Boise State, we're kind of moving around here. Going to go to the Big Ten. That game was really interesting to me. Oregon, I thought, was going to bounce back and maybe potentially even dominate Boise State. They did not. They had a very close game with Boise State. They should have honestly gotten beat. They didn't. They won 37-34, but they had to have a punt return and a kickoff return for a touchdown to win the game. Had they have not had those go their way, they wouldn't have been victorious against the Broncos. A thing that stood out to me was Ashton Jeanty. He had another insane game. He rushed for almost 200 yards and 3 more touchdowns. That puts his stats through 2 weeks of college football at over 400 yards, and I want to say it's 9 touchdowns. That's insane. He needs to be the Heisman frontrunner so far in the world. I mean, he's playing better than anybody in the country right now, Ashton Jeanty. But Oregon, they had one goal, was to stop him, and they couldn't do it. So something's wrong with Oregon defensively. They're not as good on the line of scrimmage as I thought they were. But overall, they got the win. We'll see how they play when it comes to Big Ten conference play. Probably the game of the week, Texas and Michigan. That one was a really interesting one to me. It was a surprise because I didn't think Texas had the team to just roll up into the big house and dominate Michigan like that. The defending national champions, but I was wrong. Texas rolled right up in there and did their thing. 31-12 final score. Quinn Ewers looked really crisp again. And overall, like I said, it was just a dominant performance from Texas in Michigan's backyard. You don't see that much. So Texas might be legit this year, folks, and it's something to definitely watch out for. And that's all the time we have for you today. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the first ever edition of the Oracle Sports Desk. I'm your host, Tyler Payne, and I'll see you next time.